everybody, welcome to another episode of Vocal Anarchy. Today we're discussing shitty teachers, shitty education systems and shitty school systems. So what are your opinions?
I hate maths.
I think the main problem is that the school doesn't really teach us the necessary things that we need to know as human beings, such as like how to pay your rent, how to get a mortgage, etc, etc. None of the fundamentals, they just teach us useless shit such as art.
Even how to vote, even political systems. I mean, I understand that they're not allowed to influence our political views, but at least give us an indication of how the government works.
And they assume that just because you magically turn 18 and you're of legal age, or suddenly you have that mental and emotional maturity to understand how exactly politics and the government works, but that's not how school is.
What do you think is the worst thing about school or the education system?
For once, in our school, we get 2-hour detentions if we're even a minute late, which is literally ridiculous. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, especially when the teachers are late themselves. I don't understand why. What is the need? It's not even discipline, it's petty.
And in the end it causes a backlash because people in general, they just skip the first lesson and come to second lesson.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to drive students to miss lessons instead of trying to be on time, surely it's backfiring.
And how is 1 minute being late going to impact their education exactly?
So what's the worst teacher you've had, or what's the worst experience you've had with a teacher?
It is someone who used to go to our school, but I think she left or something. She made my life hell.
A teacher?
How?
She favoured all the naughty kids and she was just a massive bitch. She didn't give a shit about the students and she was just a shit teacher in general. She didn't know how to manage the kids and she would literally let all the troublemakers get away with everything and then selectively pick on the good students.
I understand what you're saying. The teachers that don't know how to discipline kids, they instead actually become friends with the bad kids just to try and subdue them.
If there's one thing I don't like in a teacher, my biggest pet peeve, is when they try and be your best friend or your big sister or big brother. Like, no, you're the adult, I'm the teenager, you're there to teach me. And then they do try and befriend people who, it's always the classmates that you find the most annoying.
I guess you could say they kind of take on the role of your parent for a while. So from that aspect, it's understandable why they would want to express concern. Let me tell you the thing that pisses me off the most. The fact that schools don't value progress. They only value the end goal. So if you don't have that target grade, which might be an A, which might be an A star, which might even be a C, if you don't get that every single assessment, you're somehow a dumb piece of shit. And that's what pisses me off the most, because a lot of us are really trying hard. A lot of us are putting in the effort every day, but the teachers might not physically see it, obviously, because they don't live with you. Okay, let's move on to the juicy stuff. Now let's talk about shitty students.
The one type of kid that really annoys me are the type of students who always try and act funny. It's like, shut the fuck up, you're not a comedian, no one finds you funny, and if people are laughing, they're laughing at you.
I disagree. I think those people generally do find them funny, but it is a problem of our society really, because everyone is stupid, everyone is retarded.
I don't like it when the popular kids make a dumb joke and everyone has to laugh. You're not funny, just stop.
And most of their jokes are like shitty, like lame. You're not that funny, man. I could have thought of something much more wittier than that. People are only laughing because you're quote unquote popular.
What do you think about the way we are assessed in terms of examinations or coursework?
Well, I think it's ridiculous just to assess everyone just based on their exam skills, but how much you can memorize it. There are other ways to assess someone's ability, and that's just not how you do it for everyone.
And most of these tests are always standardized, and it's really annoying because imagine someone you've known for years and you know they're actually fucking stupid. They're not a conscientious person, but they end up getting certain higher marks than you, and then you're dubbed as an idiot compared to them.
What would you say is a more effective way to assess someone then?
I think we should have different ways of assessing someone depending on the person. If you have a teaching method and it's not working with a specific student, then you obviously have to try something else. Your academic performance doesn't reflect intelligence.
But wouldn't you say it'd take way too long to tailor an examination for each student? I mean, there's loads of people going through the education system.
That's why they need to start putting more emphasis on certain subjects as well, and the way they teach those subjects, because I feel like often they put a lot of emphasis on things like maths and English, which is essential for life, but it's like the content that we learn isn't very interesting and not every student will understand it.
As I said, they don't sell it to you.
Don't you mean maths and science? I mean, English I feel like is very underappreciated.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
So what do you propose more importance should be placed on?
But like we said before, that how students of our age don't really understand how the government or politics works. Instead of having government or politics, I think we should have university-based subjects but on our level, things like political science or a combination of subjects. Interdisciplinary subjects would be a really good idea, especially at our age. I feel like there needs to be more things that focus on communication and learning about other cultures and what's happening in current events today.
Students can develop an interest in moving abroad if they want to go there with their career. I think it's great to learn about other cultures as well.
So what do you think about sexual education? I think it's really necessary, but in our school, or my class, had a really frustrating sexual education. In fact, it was almost nothing. It was totally useless.
And when they do talk about stuff, they try and bring culture and religion to it. And it's like, number one, you need to break the taboo. If you keep bringing culture and religion to it just to appease a certain demographic of students, you're not going to get through to them. They're going to end up confused and, pregnant.
Yeah, I think you should just cover the actual topic for what it is, the physical act and expectations and stuff, because I feel like kids don't know anything about that.
I think you should also make emphasis on consent and obviously age-appropriate relationships, as well as other important things like preventing teen pregnancy and STDs.
They touched on it. They tried to reassure us that, you can't get into a relationship if you don't want to, etc. Come on, that's basic shit. We already know that. Why don't you explain
the psychological and physical effects of getting into early relationships and having sexual relations at a young age?
Some of these teachers don't actually know what they're talking about at all.
Yeah, my teacher said that it feels like a really tight hug.
You know what? I learned more in my sex education class in year 6 than I did throughout secondary school. That's how shit it was. We watched an animated cartoon. It was weird as hell, but I learned more from it.
It wasn't about sex, it was more about human development, puberty.
I personally feel like they try to scare you off from it because they focus more on sexually transmitted diseases rather than the actual act or how you meet people, etc.
So from what age would you say it's best to teach it?
I think 10, 11, because that's essentially when puberty normally starts, and then the entire process just sort of goes on from there into adolescence.
I think they should start with puberty and maybe masturbation, but not sex yet at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's all about the foreplay, guys.
Personally, I think that it's important that parents teach their children about both genders. For example, a lot of young boys aren't taught about menstruation, and I think that's a really important topic.
Yeah, that's a really good point you brought up there, because once you decide to get married or have kids, say you become a father and you have a daughter, and she's telling you, Dad, I have cramps or I need pads, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, ugh, get away from me, you're menstruating. Come on, it's a natural part of life.
It's especially important for single parents as well, because then how are they going to teach the child of the opposite gender?
Yeah, I mean, come on, get the fuck over it. Everyone bleeds, it's just that females bleed from a certain area during a certain time of the year. So we come to the end of another episode of Vocal Anarchy.
Period.